have not yet felt the full impact, for example, of this recent typhoon, and then the continuing food supply problems all over the world. So that really tells us that this is not yet the peak. It could be higher this November, in December, or even January.
Para sa isang mamimili, at tulad nyo, I wish na ito na yung peak, ano? But of course, as your national statistician, at nakikita natin yung mga datos, sabi ko nga, medyo may push tayo dito sa food prices. Substantial probability of an increase. In other words, it's not certain that this is already the peak.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. The big story tonight.
The country's inflation rate sizzled to 7.7% this October, its highest level in almost 14 years.
But experts warn the worst might not be over. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the big story.
Inflation in the Philippines has spiked to a nearly 14-year high on Friday. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the inflation rate increased to 7.7% this October. This is up from the 6.9% in September. The PSA said the continued uptrend was primarily due to the faster food inflation. But they also warned that this could further rise due to the effects of severe tropical storm Paeng.
Substantial probability na pwede pang tumaas itong month pala ng Nobyembre. We will be experiencing upward movement.
This was also backed by economist Alvin Ang.
Basically, the reason for the faster inflation is really coming from food. And we really have not yet felt the full impact, for example, of this recent typhoon, the continuing food supply problems all over the world. That really tells us that this is not yet the peak.
The number also exceeds the Bangko Central's 2 to 4% target for the 7th straight month. But the October reading falls within the BSP's forecast of 7.1 to 7.9% inflation for the said month. Records show that the last inflation felt like this was during the December 2008 global financial crisis. But what for sure right now is that the BSP will increase its interest rate by 75 points. This is to get a benchmark rate of 5%. Should BSP raise its interest rate, this will be felt in consumer products such as home loans and credit cards come 2023. But given the Christmas season, this is seen as the answer for lowering prices of goods. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Now to share with us his economic outlook, given that 7.7% inflation print, we have with us on the show economist and pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila President Emmanuel Leyco. He is joining us live via Zoom. Good evening, Prof. Welcome to the big story again. 14-year high, 7.7%. The PSA itself saying this is not the peak yet. There's a probability that we might actually see this going higher. Up to when do you see this extending?
Indeed, Jester and Gretchen, this is very alarming. In fact, where the inflation is coming from, it should raise a lot of concern. Food is a major push in this inflation, and therefore, if we look at potential impact of food inflation, that is nothing else but hunger. Those who cannot afford to buy food anymore will just basically have to skip some meals. And considering that inflation is coming up with or beyond the expected rates, even by the Bangko Central, I think the government should really take this a lot more seriously than ever before. 7.7% is seriously high, and therefore our assumptions should be reconsidered, and our plans for the next few months and even for next year, particularly the budget. The national budget should be shaped towards helping the poor who cannot cope with the rising inflation.
Prof, how much of this 7.7% inflation is driven by currency weakness? And what can you say about addressing both the demand and the supply side of things, given that food is the number one driver of the inflation? What can we do at this point?
Well, we are importing a lot of our food from outside, and therefore we are vulnerable when the currency depreciates. And right now, can we stop importing? That is the cost that we have to pay now. Before, when we gave up on our reliance or self-reliance, this is what we are paying for now. We will have to continue to import until our agriculture, until our food production is able to cope with the local demands. In the meantime, we will have to import and pay the cost. What can we do right now? Not much by way of food production, because it will take time before our own food production can kick in and difference. But I think in terms of the national budget, we can do something by those who cannot pay for their own food, dapat meron silang social safety net. And this is what we are worried about now. The social safety net is basically very, very thin. And those who cannot afford to buy food, and in fact, transportation inflation is even higher than the food inflation. It's coming out at something like 12.5%.
Interventions on the side of the BSP here, they have been very vocal about this, a 75 beep hike in their next policy meeting. Is that going to be enough to arrest inflation? And when do we expect this to actually feed into into arresting those increases in inflation?
Well, I think it has already demonstrated that the BSP intervention by way of increasing interest rate is not really creating any debt. In fact, we should be worried, because when they increase interest rates, that can backfire on the government, because that means they have to drag on our economy. The government budget deficit will even widen, and therefore we are not going to see the end of it in the near future. Loans that pay inflation, it has its own limitation, and therefore we have to look for other ways in arresting inflation. But definitely, inflation will have to be addressed sooner than later.
Given that we are, or the BSP is mirroring the moves of the federal states that is facing a looming recession, and I guess taking into consideration everything that has happened with our country, paeng, carding.
How the inflation continues to increase. We have to do something.
Council Attorney Danny Pelagio. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The creator economy is booming. Billions of videos, massive brand. Over $1 million.
You're watching the big story here on One News. The hearing on the drug case.
He was contacted by an inmate last September. The inmate told him that the Bucor official wanted someone dead. The inmate said that in return, the Bucor official promised to fast-track the process of their release. That's why he reached out to another gang commander to plan out the murder. Kill order, the inmate provided the photo and video of Percy Lapid. A few days passed and Lapid was ambushed on October 3. 2 weeks later, self-confessed gunman Joel Escorial surrendered. He said that he and 3 other inmates for his life. The same inmate admitted to being the one to put a plastic bag over Villamore's head while the other 3 inmates pinned him down. In an interview with 1PH Wagpo, Lapid's brother Roy Mabasa said that a copy of the affidavit has already reached them. Mabasa added that authorities will first file complaints against the suspect. DOJ's preliminary investigation, the legal counsel of the supposed second middleman, Christopher Bacoto, denied his client's involvement. Believed inmates who are involved in both cases are not qualified for witness protection. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
Now here to share the latest on the Percy Lapid slay case is Attorney Danny Pelagio, lawyer for the Mabasa family. He is joining us live via Zoom. Good evening, Attorney Pelagio, and welcome to the big story. Again, the reaction of the Mabasa family first on the affidavits.
Yes, good evening, Jester, and good evening, Gretchen.
How is the Mabasa family at least receiving the affidavits? What's going on in their head at the moment?
Yeah, it has been out, and we also confirmed receipt of the various sworn statements and affidavits of some inmates from the New Bilibid prisons. And as far as the Mabasa family is concerned, again, there is this constant threat for their safety. They are exercising due diligence in protecting themselves.
Were you surprised by the speed of the affidavits and how they were collected, as well as how the story was corroborated by these different inmates? And given that they are not qualified for the witness protection program, your thoughts on protecting the truth
inside the Bilibid, inside the Bilibid, and it was a big break for us because. They execute the killing of Crisanto Villamor, and also some insights on how they were ordered to kill Villamor.
Attorney, how certain are you that these inmates, these gang leaders,
There is that possibility, but right now they are under the custody of the National Bureau of Investigation. And we are also suggesting that eventually a perpetuation of testimony be conducted on them in form of a deposition.
Come Monday, how many cases will be filed, and when is the Mabasa family, up to when rather, are they pursuing this, given that high officials in the Bucor are already
involved in the killing of Crisanto or Jun Villamor will be filed. But as far as the
attorney, for the filing of cases with regard to the death of Percy Lapid?
Yes, it will not. Ang anticipation namin is the formal charges will be filed hopefully by Monday. The respondents, as we call them right now, because they are not yet charged, are given the opportunity to file their counter affidavits. In fact, the counsel for today at the preliminary investigation.
But maybe there's new reassurance that a deal's a deal and it's going to be enforced.
So let's talk about these other issues that he's facing. How serious are these other Tesla situations, and how significant is it that he's got to deal with the same judge who didn't make so many favorable rulings on the Twitter deal leading up to this?
Well, I don't want to puncture your balloon, but I think what's left in Delaware is not nearly as exciting or as big as the case that we almost just had with Twitter. But they're serious, and there are really two cases. One that's scheduled to go to trial soon is the one involving a compensation package Elon got from Tesla back in 2018, a whole slug of stock options in I think 12 tranches, and they were performance-based. In other words, he didn't get the benefit of those options unless Tesla met some milestone performances, which they mostly did, and yet what's left for trial is a stockholder suit claiming that.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. LRT Line 2 will end its free ride program for students tomorrow, November 5. The program, which began last August, benefited more than 1.5 million students. That's according to the Transportation Department. This could have translated to at least 30 million pesos in profit. Though the free rides are out, students can still avail of a 20% discount starting Monday. They just have to present their school ID or proof of enrollment at the ticket booth.
Noche Buena items have become more expensive with over a month left before the holidays. A supermarket group warns that prices could go even higher as we approach Christmas. Justine Punsalang with the story.
This grocery store in Mandaluyong City is teeming with shoppers, but most of them just passed by and ignore the shelves carrying Noche Buena items. They believe it's still too early to buy food for the holidays.
Nagbabudget muna para sa paninda. Pag naka-ipon-ipon, doon naman ako mamimili.
With Christmas a month and a half away, prices of Noche Buena staples have increased this year compared to their prices last year. Pear-shaped ham had at least increased from 230 pesos last year to 233 pesos now. Holiday ham, however, is pricier by 15 pesos, increasing to 595 pesos per kilo now. Depending on the brand, queso de bola price ranges from 214 to 436 pesos. Christmas go-to food spaghetti is also costlier this year, as a kilo of pasta costs 104 pesos, while the sauce is at 95 pesos. Elbow macaroni as well as mayonnaise, fruit cocktail and all-purpose cream have also become pricier. Despite these price hikes, shoppers say they are willing to shell out money for Christmas, as it only comes once a year. But Philippine Amalgamated Supermarket President Stephen Kua warns that prices of Christmas items might increase even more. That's why he is urging the public to buy supplies as early as now.
Go shop now, okay? If you have the money. Because normally people expect magtataas pag Christmas. This year, it has nothing to do with Christmas. The whole year round nagtataas eh.
For its part, the Trade and Industry Department is looking at possibly releasing a price guide for Noche Buena items. The agency is also constantly talking to manufacturers to make sure supplies are enough. For News 5, Justine Punsalang. We are One News.
I'm Gretchen Ho, your woman in action. A Pinay is looking to make a name for herself in the racing scene as she becomes the first Filipino to be part of the Formula 3 W Series. More details in my report. In the middle of the fast lanes of the Formula Series, a Pinay racing sensation is heating up the tracks. Meet Bianca Bustamante, an up-and-coming motorsport star. She's the first Filipino to be part of the prestigious Formula 3 W Series. The Laguna-born rising star says she grew up on the track. Bianca started karting at 5 years old, inspired by her karter dad, whom she used to watch as a kid.
I'd force my parents to bring me to the track. I'd beg them just every day to go to the track if I can practice, if I can drive, and they saw that I had that within myself and that it was pure and it was passionate.
Following the footsteps of F1 drivers Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, who started out with karting, Bianca has been making waves both in the local and international scenes. Her being a 4-time China Grand Prix scholarship winner and a 2-time Asian karting champion can attest to that. The 17-year-old's biggest break came when she joined the FIA Girls on Track Rising Star Shootout in 2021.
Now we're just trying to learn, really, it's been a tough year for us. It's been a long year of learning, of progress and growth. So next year, we're coming back for more and hopefully try to compete for that top spot on the podium.
The W Series is a free-to-enter championship and a developmental program for female racers, which hopes to eliminate inequalities in their journey toward success in the male-dominated motorsport. Driving there fulfilled Bianca's dream of racing alongside her idols in the sport. Recently, she raced in the Singapore Grand Prix in front of a massive Filipino support group.
It's shockingly, surprisingly, I was very, it was so heart-melting, having that support and being able to be proud of where I came from.
Apart from trying to make a name for herself in the sport, what keeps Bianca going is her passion to be a role model for both young girls and aspiring female racers. You can catch more of our Formula 1 weekend experience and adventures in Singapore on Woman in Action this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on One News and Sunday, 8 p.m. on 1PH. Gretchen Ho, We Are One News.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great weekend.